All right, welcome back to part 3 of DIY elk hunting. And in part 3, number 3, as Dave's holding up, we're going to talk about gear and just a little bit of maybe media. We're going to get into a little bit of media that these guys watch and to learn things. And we're going to talk about gear, the essentials, and all that good stuff about your whitetail gear as well.
Hi, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Dave.
We're charter captains from Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
We're also avid outdoorsmen. We love hiking, hunting, fishing, camping, and just being outside.
We want to connect you with the experts in the outdoors and hear your story.
We're stewards of this planet, and we want to make sure the hobbies we enjoy today are available for generations to come. This is Avid Outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. So I guess we just kind of want to go through, so as far as, really for if you're going out, you want to do this for the first time, just some of the stuff. How do you learn how to do it? The gear, the must-have gear.
Yeah.
And then there's stuff you don't have to have. You can do this on a budget. So we want to talk to that.
Yeah, so as an outsider kind of looking in, because obviously I've never been elk hunting and I really want to go. As far as I have all this stuff that I use for whitetails. I have good boots that I would consider good boots. I have, pants and tops and all that other stuff. I got a good backpack. What am I going to utilize that I have for whitetail hunting, and what am I not going to utilize that I have for whitetail hunting?
So probably what you're going to utilize. So for my first few years elk hunting, I use the same camo that I sit in the tree stand with. My scent blocker, camo. Not to be mistaken that you're not going to be able to, be scent free in the woods. Elk are going to, all that stuff can pretty much, we kind of talked about it, touched on earlier, but any of the scent control products, don't spend your money on that. But if you got that type of camo pattern and that kind of stuff, you can use that gear, So a lot of times if you're archery hunting, you're going to hunt all different kinds of conditions. So one year we hunted Colorado. We were literally hunting. It was 85 degrees out, it was brutally hot, first week of September. And then one year we were hunting the third week in Montana, and we got 18 inches of snow overnight, and you can get those conditions. Even when we were in Idaho this year, we were hunting in 75 degree weather, and then some days it was a high of 50,
And then at night it dropped down into the 30s.
Yeah, high 20s, low 30s. Yep. So, you touched on boots. Boots is a big, where you want to spend your money. If you do not have a good pair of boots, that's the place you're going to be spending it. I used to think a good pair of boots was $100, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's a good pair. This year I actually busted out and, dropped $300 on a pair of Crispies because of Josh, the year before. And you put your foot in a pair of Crispies, it's like, holy cow, I've been missing out.
Walking on a pillow.
It is awesome. Yeah. And you've been wearing your Crispy boots every day since
Every day
last year.
Yeah. It's definitely. I think that would probably, in my opinion, I think a good pair of boots is the most important thing because you're going to be hiking.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing a lot of walking. You're going to be in some nasty terrain, and a good pair of boots is going to make, I think, personally, the world of difference because, luckily for me, I haven't had any blisters or anything like that, even.
Yeah.
With how many miles we walked this year and last year, and it's a little bit of a sticker shock if you do end up buying, crispy boots or a high-end boot. You're going to be looking at the $300 range, but
you're going to use them for years.
You're going to use them,
yeah,
and you're going to really be thankful.
And you can have those boots for 10 years. You're gonna, you get what you pay for. So
exactly.
I'd imagine all of us here are pretty much done growing at this point in our time. So
yeah.
Feet anyway.
Yeah.
The waist might get a little bit.
Yeah. So, but as far as
how much I spend on the internet searching on getting the pop-up ads. But feet are done growing.
Feet are done growing. But yeah, as far as what you could use, if you're a pretty avid whitetail hunter, you can pretty much use anything that you're using. You're gonna have your base layers. You're gonna have your cool weather if you're bow hunting early season. You're gonna have heavy jackets if you're late hunting season. All that stuff. Until you really go you can use all that for like if it's like your first time going out.
Yeah.
You know, a good pair of binoculars is really handy. You do not need a spotting scope. Where
At
we
least
hunt.
not where we go.
Now, if you go down to like New Mexico or you're doing like an Arizona, and those are pretty much draw tags. So, I mean, you know, good luck and count your blessings if you actually get one of those tags because they're really hard to get. But, you know, you go into like southern Idaho where you're hunting more of that, you know, sagebrush and those, I don't know what those little scrub oaks and that type of stuff. You know, spotting scopes are good, but for the most part, how we hunt is you're doing a ton of calling and you're locating based on calling, not based on spotting scope. I've had a spotting scope. I had one for like 4 years and I used it like one time, you know, and finally I was like, what am I using this thing for? And I just sold it. So one of those things you don't have to have the money to buy one of those, but a good pair of binoculars is super handy to have. You know, 10 by 42s or 10 by 50s.
I think I have 10 by 42.
Yeah.
Vortex.
Yeah. So the other place where you want to spend your money is going to be on a good backpack. Metal frame. You know, I use a Badlands pack.
I have a Kuiu 5200 that you can spike camp with for 3 to 5 days. It's rated for. So
Yeah. Big money pack.
yeah. It was a $550 pack.
Yeah.
But
I got mine actually off Facebook Marketplace. So some of those, you know, like a backpack, you know, some of that stuff you maybe can catch a good deal on because the backpack I have is usually around 500, I think 550. So that's kind of what you're gonna pay. But I ended up getting mine for $200. I used it one time and you know made it work. So, but that's definitely if you're gonna be spike camping or hauling meat, you know, because you go out with the expectation of shooting one. You know, you need to have the proper gear to take care of that animal.
And it's nice having a pack that you can haul meat out with right away versus having to go all the way back to base camp
just to grab a frame pack. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a waste. Like you could be 6 miles back, you could be 2 miles back. Well, you just killed like a good 3 or 4 hours going back just to.
Yeah, because for a little while there, I actually had my pack for like packing meat, and then I had like just a day pack I would run, like my normal whitetail backpack I use. But now it's just I just run the one backpack and you know stuff like that. But you know, and then game bags. Game bags is a
definitely must.
A must. Yeah.
Especially if you plan on killing something.
Yeah, if you plan on killing one, you have to have game bags. Don't use trash bags. You got to use game bags. So
keeps the flies.
The ones that you had were awesome because you can reuse them.
Yeah, you can reuse them. They're
Ovis?
washable. I think they're black Ovis bags.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, it was super good material. They came with a cinch cord and everything. So one thing you don't realize too is like when you're actually processing an elk or whatever you're hunting out there is there's a lot of flies.
Yeah.
So biggest thing is like if they get on the meat for an extended period of time, they could kind of do some damage to it. So you want to get it off the animal into a bag right away to protect the meat.
Yeah.
Is that a cloth or is it a membrane or is it plastic?
It's a cheese. Well, the ones I had were like a cheesecloth.
His were a cheesecloth,
and that's a one-time use.
Yeah, I honestly don't know what my material or what the material is used for that bag, but it's reusable.
Yeah,
it's breathable.
It's breathable.
And it protects the meat. So,
yeah. So get it off the bone. You know, is a big thing, so it doesn't bone sour. You know, that's why you want to debone it out in the field and then get that thing hung in the game bag. So as far as gear,
and something else that I know that Josh mentioned out there is because we've had the discussion of fixed broadheads versus deployables and stuff, and a lot of us whitetail hunters here, especially in Wisconsin, are shooting expandable broadheads or non-fixed blades that to get a bigger cut, but. I was told that in Idaho you cannot have an expendable broadhead. Correct. It has to be fixed blade broadhead. So just touch base on that a little bit. I know Josh, you're shooting a single bevel, so.
Yeah, so me personally, I switched over last year for this elk hunt. I kind of switched up my whole game, or my archery setup for elk hunting last year, and I actually think it made a big difference in whitetail hunting because I use the same setup. I shoot 125 grain. Single bevel, Strickland Helix broadheads. I used mechanicals back in like 2008 when Rage first came out. Lost a couple deer and then just got kind of turned off. That's my opinion. That's my preference.
I shoot Rages right now, and I can tell you I will be switching to fixed blade single bevel as well. So
yeah, and I would say especially after Dan's elk or where he hit that bull, you can kind of tell why mechanicals are not
Yeah.
allow.
So I used to, I mean, my first bow buck was with a Rage, and it actually probably saved me on that because I shot it real low, and I was like, oh man, these things are awesome. Well, I went bear hunting with Rage and lost 2 bears. And both of them we were videoing it too, and it's like perfect placement. But yeah, so there's a reason expandable broadheads. You know, I always say, hey, whitetail hunting, I think they're great. They, huge wounds, bleed a ton. But there's a reason that they are in most western states, big game, you can't use them. I know Montana you can't, Idaho, I mean, unless some of these laws have changed, Utah, I mean, most of those states you cannot use expandables. Yeah. I personally shoot a 100 grain Muzzy, 3-blade. I'm probably going to be switching this next year. I wasn't real happy with the blood trail. The Muzzies have been known for that. They don't really give a big blood trail. I think I might go with like the Exodus, 1 3/8 or something, but we'll see. I mean, I'll switch, I'll probably switch my gear up 3 times for next year. But.
And broadheads, the broadhead arrow debate, that's something that if you want to touch base or find out more, my suggestion right now is go check out a couple YouTube videos or something, because we don't know a whole lot about, I mean, a little, but definitely a huge debate.
This is all personal preference.
Yeah.
This is not,
So, and as far as that other gear, so I shoot a Matthews Verdicts with Easton arrow, and I'm weighed at, so I have a couple extra arrow weights in the front, and I'm at 300, and if you're into all of that, this year I kind of took that a little seriously, so I'm shooting, 450 grains total arrow weight at 65-pound draw.
Yep.
On Verdicts. I know you have your Hoyt, so you don't need a new bow. Okay,
no.
So
I have a 2009 Hoyt Alpha Max, which I'm going to be buying a new bow next year.
Yeah, here we go.
Hopefully Matthews, but no.
Hopefully my wife doesn't see that.
Yeah. So as far as that kind of, so if you have like an older bow, it's it's fine. I mean.
Yeah, and like
you don't have to have top of the line stuff in order to go out and do this.
Yeah, like I said, I just want to touch base on it because it's a regulation thing. But I mean, as far as archery equipment and stuff, that's a personal preference thing. So,
exactly.
From there, I mean, you guys really touched base good on like the boots and the clothing and the backpack and stuff. But as far as media or maybe like electronic like devices that I know you guys in our previous episodes, you guys talked about Onyx, and just touch on that a little bit, and then maybe some of the other online sources that you guys used to help further educate yourselves on elk hunting.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, my first 3 years, after 3 years, I was getting pretty frustrated, and after this year and last year, I really noticed that my first 3 years of elk hunting, I was going for a glorified nature walk carrying a bow. I mean, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And when you're spending that much time and energy, you definitely want, and kind of what I've told Josh this before, my goal is to like help, like I would love to just help people just eliminate a lot of mistakes I did and just cut their learning time, in half. Because when you look at archery hunting public land, your success rate is 10%. I mean, that's what the numbers show on average in a unit, which means that's 1 elk every 10 years, and that's really obviously not really good odds. So my thing is, how can you, be a better hunter? And some of the sources that I've really dove into and educated myself on was, I mentioned it earlier before, Born and Raised Outdoors. Love those guys, super entertaining, but a lot of good content. There's Elk 101, I mentioned, the university, definitely worth the money for your first-time hunter. I bought that app after my 5th year of elk hunting, my 4th year of elk hunting, and I learned a ton on that. And then the Elk Nut is it's a good app that I utilize, and that's a great app for calling, and that's one of the things that I didn't take seriously until like this summer after last year's hunt, when we actually got into elk and were able to communicate and learn how they communicate. And this year was a game. I mean, we took elk calling to the next level as far as learning it. And the Elk Nut is there's a great app out there and a lot of great YouTube videos out there for learning, because you need to take the time to learn how to call elk, period. Yep. I mean, that's how you're going to locate them. That's how you're going to call them in. Especially when you're hunting early September to late through the rut. any archery hunting, calling is the way to. That's the way that we were successful. I mean, and that's the way that I see us being successful moving forward. Because I mean, this year we called in more bulls into bow range than I saw my first 3 years elk hunting.
Yeah.
Combined.
Yeah, combined. I mean, it was crazy. So
I'd say one media source that I kind of found and caught myself listening to a lot was J. Scott Outdoors. He had a biologist that did numerous podcasts and with him, and it was all on elk calling and like what all the sounds mean and all that stuff. So basically, when I was working in the shop, that's all I had on was just J. Scott Outdoors or these podcasts and just listening to what this biologist had to say. Because, I mean, let's face it, if you want to go out and kill an elk, you got to kind of think and talk like an elk. So,
yeah.
And there's no better way of actually really learning unless you're actually listening to podcasts or reading articles or whatever. So,
and then you can put that into practice because, you know, until you get out there, there's only so much you can do. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're only hunting 10 days. You know, 365, we're hunting 10, you know, for elk. And so you need to take that seriously before going into the elk woods. And then you're going to really figure out where you're at once you get there to see, hey, either I really prepared well or I didn't. And you're going to learn a ton while you're out there. And that's fine. You know, don't get discouraged if you don't get an elk after 1, 2. I mean, crap, this was my 6th hunt, my first elk kill, you know? And you just got to keep doing it and keep learning and just kind of get after that learning and be super eager to learn. So
our motto going into this was it only takes one.
It does. It only takes one elk. You're trying to find that elk that wants to play ball, you know? Yeah. And that's what the born and raised guys have really kind of taught, you know, me and that, you know, is you get into an area, you know, we've seen a ton of elk. I mean, we've probably seen 100 elk this year, you know, but, easily. You know, you just need to find that one elk that wants to play ball, you know, that's in the rut. He wants to either fight or find some cows. So you need to learn how to call, and it'll definitely help you
just like killing
success.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And as we're wrapping things up, just touch base on the whole Onyx thing, and because I mean honestly, we've talked about it in many of our podcasts, and the thing is, we have zero affiliation with Onyx. You can get Onyx discount codes on a bunch of different YouTube people's websites, but I'm telling you what, if you don't know what Onyx is, you are literally blind to the world of property maps and maps in general. So touch base on how you did it, especially without having service.
Well, I mean, it's beneficial even to have it around here. I mean, in the Midwest.
I mean, that's how I basically surveyed my property that I bought.
Well, exactly.
So,
and you know, and I kind of like, actually, Dan. I don't remember how it came up, but you were trying to figure out whose property.
Yeah, I was trying to find some more property around me before I ended up buying property, just a place to hunt. And, you know, Josh was just kind of like, you know, hey man, you should just get the Onyx, and you know we can. And now my neighbor and I have got it, and we've door knocked a bunch of people, and we've got property all over now that we bow hunt and deer hunt on.
But basically, I mean, as far as the Onyx maps goes out there, when you don't have service, you can download the maps. You have options of going, I think, 5, 10, 20
miles,
50, and maybe 100 miles out. But basically, if you know where you're going to be going, we did it at 5 miles. So that way it was the most, you had the most terrain and intel on that certain area. And then you just download each section of that area you want to hunt. So once you download it, it's on your Onyx maps, and you can go in airplane mode and not have service and still utilize them maps.
So it gets saved to your actual phone or media device that you're using if you're using a tablet, but most guys that have just their cell phone. So it's saved actually on your phone to use. And another place to get some really good, you mentioned kind of discount codes. Yep. There's a website that I kind of got onto this year, Camo Fire. I don't know if you guys have heard that one. CamoFire.com. They do like daily deals. So they'll literally have like Onyx Day, and you can get like I got all 50 states for like $49.
Yeah, because I think it's $30 for one state for the year, $10 or $15 for another state for like a month or whatever.
Yeah,
I think and there are different like levels, because I know I've got whatever
the elite.
I think I have the elite package.
Yeah, so it's every state. I mean, everything you can get basically. And you can utilize that when you're actually hunting too, because on there you can identify old burn areas.
Yes.
This year, with current wildfires, there was so many units that got shut down in other states. Thank God we didn't have any issues with that. But I know of three elk hunters myself that they had to completely change where they're hunting because the units were closed due to the wildfires. Yeah. And Onyx keeps you up to date on where the wildfires are, and it's a must-have. I mean, no questions asked. You got to have it.
Because you've got topographic, you've got the waypoints. You can mark waypoints and all that other stuff. You got accesses that marks public land versus private, marks the owners of private land. So if you shoot an elk on public and it goes across, or even a whitetail, I use it all the time. We use it all the time for turkey hunting. Oh, yeah. You come to property boundaries that you just don't know. So, I mean...
Yeah, you're going to go west, everywhere. I mean, as a whitetail hunter, if you don't use it, it can really change how you whitetail hunt and turkey hunt and anything else. So, but yeah. I don't know, anything else on gear? I think,
I don't know if we really touched on the clothing or anything like that, but did we?
Not much. I mean, we talked about as a first time goer, you can use your whitetail gear that you have. Yeah. It's really watch what kind of rain gear you have because, especially if you hunt Colorado gets rain every day, like at some point during the day. So that's one where we ran into where you definitely want some good rain gear. Just because you do only get to hunt, like I mentioned, 10 or however many days you are scheduled to hunt, you want to be out there no matter what the conditions are. You got to go after it. And you can shoot elk in any type of condition because they're, you're stalking them, so they're going to be bedded down. You know where they're bedded. You can go get them in the rain. Obviously you got to watch with the raining and shooting one with a bow and tracking it. Yeah. But you don't want to let weather deter you because last year in Idaho, I mean, what did it rain like 3 days?
It rained 3 days.
I mean, and like snow. Hard and snow, and you just kind of get it all. So, but you'll get a feel for it as you go, and I'm sure the first time you go, it's going to be in your blood. You're going to want to do it. But as far as the most rewarding hunt. I mean, I don't think it gets any better, any more difficult to me than an elk DIY over-the-counter hunt. Yeah. I mean, maybe a sheep hunt, with a bow or something, but I'm not into that kind of terrain. So. But, yeah.
Well, all right, guys. Thank you very much for sharing all this helpful knowledge with us. If they want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Basically, you can find me on Facebook, Josh Ermer. And just shoot me a message.
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah, Dan Herbst. I mean, shoot me a message. Love to chat with you. If you got questions, you're going to be going out. Any tips? I'd definitely be happy to help any way possible. I'm just not telling you where we're hunting.
This is Avid Outdoors.